So I just grew up with this innate, like, I might be down and bloody tomorrow, but Saturday I'm coming back, and I'm coming back swinging. Like, it's just how I'm wired. And I took that into the business world, which is so many people like to just throw their hands up and be like, well, there's too many problems.
Hey everyone, welcome to Beyond the Build, the podcast where innovation meets collaboration in the world of construction. We bring together thought leaders and industry experts to explore the cutting-edge ideas transforming construction equipment, supply chains, building materials, and workforce productivity.
This podcast is proudly brought to you by Faro, the revolutionary last-mile logistics platform, redefining how high-value, time-sensitive construction deliveries get done. Need it fast? Need it right? Faro.
I mean, what I'd say about this episode, guys, for those just tuning in, this is an episode unlike any other that we've done so far on Beyond the Build. And we're going to dive into a bit about what it means to be a man, the struggles that men and manhood are having in today's society, and trying to find ways to break down the barriers that are in our way to be happier, healthier humans. So if any of that sounds good to you, this is going to be a listen that you'll want to tune into. I've been kind of reviewing a bit about you, trying to become more familiar, and it seems that you have a pretty diverse background. I guess give me a quick synopsis of a little bit of where you started and how you ended up where you're at now.
Yeah. Business major in college, and then got into energy. So I traveled the world, Alaska, Texas, South America, Middle East.
And was that all on the oil side of things?
Yeah, I was on the exploration side. And then really perfected my craft in terms of being like a problem solver. And then I've stepped away. I ran some of the biggest companies in the world on that aspect. And then I've stepped away and just done it on an entrepreneurial level too. So just working with, I don't know, probably north of 70 companies at this point, just helping them grow, scale, turnarounds, whether it's bankruptcy, transitions, but just getting companies through a bind, out of a bind, or through a plateau to the next level. But just really, I'm kind of that special teams coach that, I'm going to help you train off ice or train off field and get you to a place where now you can come back and score the touchdown when you might have thought you were out of luck or out of resources, or, everybody else told you to quit.
From your perspective, do you feel that you have just an ability, because you're talking about really big problems, working with really big companies and helping them in very significant ways. Do you think that was something that was more learned, or do you think that there's just something in your bones, something in your DNA that just makes you different, think different, and you're just able to navigate these very complex situations and find outcomes that are positive?
Definitely both. Like, I grew up as a boy named Sue. I wrote a book on men's health and leadership, which is teaching men how to push through when you want to give up and everything in your head is telling you to give up and the world is telling you that you're a failure. So I just grew up with this innate, like, I might be down and bloody tomorrow, but Saturday I'm coming back, and I'm coming back swinging. Like, that's just how I'm wired. And I kind of took that into the business world, which is so many people like to just throw their hands up and be like, well, there's too many problems. And then to me, I'm like, well, I grew up with that. Like, you see a problem, I may see a problem for a while, but eventually I'm going to look and I'm going to explore this thing, front side, back side, left, right. And eventually I'm like, wait a minute, there's a crack here.
You said you grew up with that. If I can pry, what does that mean?
Yeah. No, I think just growing up, I think, if I talk about my men's leadership side, my author side, it's like I grew up as that kid that, you're dumb, you're ugly, you're a waste of time, you're a piece of shit, you were everything that society, your family of origin told you were. And, the society or the proximity that you found yourself in would just tell you that every day. And I think on a spiritual side, we know we have an enemy that's there to just double down on that and just tell you that you're worthless, why bother, give up. And I had to fight through that. It took me a lot of years. I definitely spent a lot of years believing it. But there was a day and time where eventually I was like, wait a minute, I'm not the jacked up one. I was the victim of a set of circumstances that led me to believe I was a jacked up one. But then I started to realize like I was in a proximity I couldn't get out of. I'm a kid in an environment that I had no choice. Like, my parents made decisions that I had no choice. The school made a decision I had no choice. The church I was part of had decisions I had no choice. Like I was along for the ride. And then, but it was all of them, all of the above that would turn around and be like, you're the problem. And I'm like, as a kid, you're like, I guess I am. And then you go off living your life thinking, I am a piece of shit. I am a failure. I am everything that they said I was. But then and I think a lot of men get stuck in that, and they're 30, 40, 50, 60, still believing that. It's locked in their head, and they never escape it. And then they spend the rest of their life trying to escape it. And you could just think of all the different ways that men escape, right? Try to find work or success or pornography or addictions or substances or Netflix or binge watching football. Like those are all ways that we escape. But I think I got to a place where I was like, I just couldn't deal with believing a lie anymore. And I just started to fight back. But it's always been there in my DNA where I just refused to accept the status quo.
But I'll tell you what, this is one of the kind of more heavy, impactful openers that we've had so far. That I both understand and can relate to the idea of, it comes down to a lot of self-doubt, being self-critical, and then even the deeper levels like you're bringing up where like you truly believe that, that your worth is diminished or non-existent. So that definitely is something we're hearing more and more about, which I think is a positive thing. But it's gone on for so long that, we're dealing with the kind of the negative outcomes of it for the next while here.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's deeper than any of us believe. I think it's the fall of society. I think it's truly the destruction of men is the destruction of American society that we see. And there's a direct correlation there. And we have to do better. We have to change the future, and only we can change it.
And that getting up every day, like especially after being like, beaten down, there's plenty of people who resonate with that too, where it's like, man, it is tough to feel like you're getting hit and then having to wake up the next day and step back into the ring and be like, I know I'm going to get hit again. It's going to happen. It's going to be uncomfortable, but making that choice to, instead of avoid or run, but to still step up and be like, all right, I'm here, I'm fighting. That's tough. It's kind of like, to put it in a physical kind of perspective, it's like working out. It's not the same thing from a severity standpoint, but it's like working out usually isn't fun. It's not comfortable. Or like a cold plunge, it's a shit time, but you do it because it's good for you. And I think fighting is good for you when put in a healthy frame, of course, in that what you're fighting for. You're not fighting out of spite or hate or anger, but fighting out of determination and knowing that the effort will be worth it in the long term.
Yeah, and I think that's the $1 million point that what you're making there is the subset of men that actually can hold the line. It is, unfortunately, it's a majority of men that eventually they might fight for a while, they might fight outwardly, but eventually inwardly they just collapse. And then that's where families fail, marriages fail, society fails.
Yeah. And I bet that stems, beyond just men as well. Like if too many people give up, then you can't hold that line anymore. I think that's a good way to put it. And it makes perfect sense. In your mind, what's that line? What's the enemy that we're holding against?
I think the enemy it's twofold. I think on a spiritual side, we've been told that there's a destructive force seeking to destroy the impact that we have in life. Right. I think, obviously I'm a faith-based person, but the Bible speaks clearly that, we can do the best we can, but no matter what, there's an enemy that wants to kill, steal, and destroy who we are as people. And I think what we as humans fail to realize is our psychologically, chemically, biologically, like our bodies in the world we live in is fighting us 24/7. So, and I think a lot of people dismiss, so they think that I'll just push it out of the way. I'll just pretend it's not there. But if you look on a human element, like you get up, if you're up 17 hours a day, well, you're up 86,400 seconds a day, right? Of those 86,400 seconds in a day, you're awake for 60,000 seconds a day. Well, if you look on a brain function level, your brain has 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Of those thoughts, 70% are negative and 90% are repetitive, right? So now it's like you start to realize, like, in our heads. So if whether you're a faith-based person or not, it's like, I'm trying to show the correlation, but it's like the Bible says it, but on a metabolic cellular level, science is proving that we're thinking thoughts every second of the day that we're awake. And of those thoughts, 70% are negative, 90% are repetitive. So now we're thinking repetitively how bad and what kind of a piece of shit I am. It's negative feedback. And then we understand, like, neural pathways. The more that you think a thing, the more that becomes a wider pathway, and eventually it becomes an addictive thought. So on both levels, whether you're a believer or an unbeliever, both point to undeniably that you are fighting a battle you cannot win. Like, the math is against you, and everything is stacked against you. And then I think, once again, if you grew up in an environment where you were taught and you were raised to believe that you were insignificant in some way, shape, or form, you're just putting gasoline on that fire. And now it just becomes an addiction. And if it's in your head, you don't escape it. You can't push it out of the way. And that's why you see a lot of guys that escapism is the only way to try to make it through life anymore, right? It's find something to distract you temporarily. Well, we all know that rug just gets higher and taller and deeper, and eventually it's going to trip you up, and then there's no escaping it. And that's, to me, I think that's the enemy we're fighting is whoever you are, there's a demon that's trying to take you out, and that demon may be spiritual, but there's also a demon in your head that is out to destroy you. And if you think that you can just outwit it, or if you think that you can just avoid it and hope it goes away, you're fooling yourself. And then, of course, if you've gone through trauma yourself, and if you've gone through difficult times in life, that's just fuel for that fire that is only going to make that fire even stronger and make that battle even harder to fight. And yet most of society, it's like, just stay distracted, right? Just pretend it's not there, hope it goes away, do something, find a shiny object, watch more Netflix. We just go deeper and deeper into an escapism. But that escapism is like letting cancer fester and not going to your doctor to go and get a biopsy.
I mean, I count myself so fortunate in hearing kind of you vocalize, not necessarily your own personal past, but kind of just reflecting on the personal pasts of others. And I just count myself lucky that I'm not a perfect person. I'm not without my demons, my struggles, but man, have I, compared to so many others, have I just had such a good go of it so far. So, just grateful for that, but definitely recognize that there's some big issues that a lot of people are facing. Scott, I'm going to dig into you. Because I know a bit about your background. We've talked a little bit about what resonates with you so much about kind of Pete's philosophy and what, how do you align with kind of the struggle that he talks so much about?
Yeah, so the way I align is everybody is with obstacles, right? It's not new, whether it's personal, whether it's relationship, whether it's financial. I've never met a person that wasn't going through something. Doesn't matter where you go and who you talk to. Someone is always dealing with something. Now, the difference is are you comfortable being uncomfortable? because like Pete mentioned, right, there's different vices that you can look to make it numb and go away. But it's like you need to figure out, or what I do is saying, first, how do I surrender to his will, but not stop fighting? Right? Because that's the two things that, like, if you think from a literal sense, you're like, surrender, give up. No. It's not about giving up. It's about taking the internal scorecard that you have for yourself and flushing it. Like, who are you to measure in terms of what success looks like, or your neighbor or somebody else? No one gets to basically grade you on that scorecard. That's a personal relationship that you have if you're a believer with God, right? And laying down at his feet and saying, you know me inside and out. There's no place I can hide, and I am at your will. Right? And then those who basically look at other areas in terms of saying for recognition, it's going like, stop measuring yourself and keep fighting, keep pushing. Attack the areas that you're the most scared of. And if you think about that in life or in fitness or in business, it's like a lot of people will say, that's a scary door. I don't want to go in and open it. But the way I resonate with Pete is like, no, let's open that door, because there's something great once you break through. For me, I guess I have a different mechanism where I embrace the conflict, not because I want to fight, but because I think there's something that's bigger that comes out of it. So, personal stories in my life where it's like when we had really, really dark areas where, we went to counseling for something. We did lose a child, and the way I resonated with that was going deeper and figuring out where the bottom was so that I can climb back up. Right? A lot of people would basically cope a different way, because my way of looking through that was not asking why, but what. And so when I look at circumstances and I go into things and saying, what is the true purpose of this? And try to overcome that rather than why me? Why is it happening to me? Why won't it go away? For me, that's not purpose driven. I want to break through to be able to tell a story, to outserve, or not to outserve, but to serve someone else through their struggles and give them hope and saying like, listen, if I can get through this, and I'm not saying our circumstances are the same, there's hope for you as well. And just, that's the thing you have to do, is try to figure out how to be the light in the darkest room and give people hope and show them through commitment and grit, right? Of saying, yes, you will persevere, and I'll stand here with you and I'll help you get through this. But that's the whole thing about the mindset of just going like, take it on, embrace the pain, because you will grow.
Pete, what's your perspective on the negative being so strong when someone is experiencing negativity of any type? Like, I kind of look at it like a mental scale when I kind of think back at like tough times in my own personal life. Scott, you said that even when you're at your happiest, there might still be things that are pulling away you. Everyone's going through something at any time, kind of thing. That negativity, if left unchecked, will overcome your happiness or envelop it and completely take away. And then those who are potentially, way down at the bottom of the hole, they see this little peak of light and they can't find enough hope in that goodness of that light to pull themselves out. How do you wrestle with that, Pete, in that the negativity seems so strong? How do we, sometimes it feels like the positivity or the good is losing.
Well, and I think that is truly the Achilles heel of humanity. Is, I already mentioned kind of the math behind it all, but I think it is. I had one guy ask me on another podcast. He's like, "What is the number one thing that a guy needs to know to get out of?" Like, obviously, Scott's gone through something that most of us hopefully will never go through, but it's probably one of the deepest places a father could go. But I think his perspective was what kept him alive, what kept him thriving. But I think that's the perspective that most of us fail to have, which is asking what is the purpose of this rather than asking why did this happen. And I think the why is kind of the human side of us, which is whether we think it or not, we're just hardwired, we're programmed. We're no different than a buck in the woods. Like, we're looking to avoid pain and we're trying to survive. So we are naturally like like a moth to a flame. We are programmed to look for things that threaten us, our comfort, threaten our survival, to hurt us. And if we've been hurt in the past, we will do whatever it takes to avoid future pain. It's just a humanistic survival tactic. So that means we're always looking for the bad. We're always looking for the bad in situations. Why do you think mainstream media is so addicting? It's because it's reminding you of all the bad, but you're looking at it because you're addicted to it, because you want to avoid your own pain. So I think there's a human element which we are just so quickly addicted to pain, not alone mentioning the thoughts and the neural pathways, but just we are hunters and gatherers. We are just another mammal on the planet trying to not die. And when we try to not die, we're looking at death and scarcity, and we're looking at threats to us that would inflict pain on us. It's like when you take driver's ed, they tell you don't look at the curb because you'll hit the curb. You want to look ahead. But I think human nature is like, I'm going to stare at the scary thing all the time. And everybody has their scary thing that they're staring at, and then you become obsessed with it. And eventually you end up doing the very thing you don't want to do. Everybody's like, I won't be like my mom. Well, then you spend every day being like, I'm not going to be like my mom. Well, now you are your mom, right? Well, that's just human nature. So I think the negativity that is the biggest fight that we all have to fight, which is, can I get, and I think too, if you're somebody like we've all gone through, if you've gone through times in life where as a child, you went through places and times that were traumatic, everything becomes about us, right? Narcissistic people are people that were hurt at one point, and now they're so focused on their needs because they don't want to be hurt, and they're going to do whatever it takes to never get hurt again. That's what alcoholics are. There's somebody that was abused or hurt or neglected or abandoned, and now they are so desperate to never feel pain again that they're going to mask pain, but now they know they're going to hurt other people more, but they're okay with it because at least they're not hurting anymore. But it's an illogical thought process. But ultimately, escapism is like, I'm looking out for myself, and if I hurt my wife and kids, I can justify it for a moment of time because at least I don't hurt anymore. So I think that is the whole crutch of society is, are you willing to stop running for your benefit, and are you willing to stop and ask, like, how can I grow through this? Because the pain and the obstacle is the way, like the Stoics say, right? It's like, we have to go through hard times to get better. You have to deal with adversity to get better, but you have to face the pain, and you can't try to run away from it, and you can't try to make it go away, and you can't try to hope that there's an easy way out. It's like, you have to, and you couldn't, and as long as you're asking why and why me, you're no longer becoming, like, you're taking the victimhood and you're staying stuck in it. And we all know some of the most broken people in society stay victims. And as long as you're a victim, you'll never escape it. But when you learn to become an overcomer, you start to ask, like, hey, this is actually a springboard to become a better person. Like, if you look, if we go to the gym, we tear down muscles to build up muscles to get stronger. But yet on a human level, we don't like hard times, even though knowing that hard times tear us down to build us back up to make us better. So it's like, there's that disconnect where we forget. And I think men are just weak, right? Women are strong emotionally, weak physically. Men are weak emotionally, strong physically. So I think just a lot of men, as soon as hard times hit, they just turn into victims, and then the victimhood keeps them stuck, and then being stuck creates more problems, and they make bad decisions, and then they just never get out of that roller coaster.
Well, one thing Pete said too, and I want to chime in, is, even when you overcome, let's say you go to the gym and you become bigger, stronger, right? And everybody's going, wow, that person's got a really great physique. I want to look like them. Or you're successful in business and you own a bunch of, businesses and you got millions of dollars in your bank account. People are like, wow, I wish I could be like that. It really goes back to, again, the purpose, right? You can use it as a springboard and get to where you think you want to be. But if you're doing it for selfish gain, you're still hollow, right? And that's why when we talked about JP, when we established the company, our core values, first value is servant leadership, right? Second one is humility. And third is being unapologetic, right? Just because we've overcame and we've created what we call success, if we're not giving back and we're not helping someone else, what's the purpose behind it? Like, use your springboard to elevate others, not just elevate yourself to another rung in the ladder.
I have a question for either of you. I'm curious myself, but it's like, okay, we know that this issue, what's the fix? And I know that there's no quick fix, of course, but in your experience, either of you, I guess does it come down to like, do you need to be selfish first to fix yourself? Or do you find that it's more effective to find healing or improvement through service of others, before focusing on yourself? I guess, what have you found to be the steps? It's not just working out. It's not just like spiritual oneness or, it could be lots of things that factor into improving the situation, but kind of where does it start? Does it start only from you, or is that not effective?
I think the long and the short of it is, most people don't do the right thing, right? If you look at American society, 25% of homes have no father, no male, nobody, just a mom and a child. Another 50% of those homes have an absentee father, which means he's emotionally checked out. He's just a walk-in, overweight, unhealthy, emotionally discharged man. He is just a body with a beer can, right? Now, the hard thing is, it is hard. That's why I wrote my book. It is very hard for men to find answers. Because if you go to your pastor, he's going to give you some Bible verse that means nothing to you. You go to a counselor and they're going to ask you something contextual about what's going on with work. And it's like, that's not the problem. You go to your friends and they're just going to give you some bravado because they're hiding their shit. So they're just going to give you some bullshit version of what they think you should do, which is, and most of the guys are like, do something superficial. Go achieve something, go do something, go acquire something, go accomplish something. Better six-pack, better guns, better bank account, bigger truck, faster car. Like, it's all shiny objects. And what we have to do is you have to dig deep and go very deep. You have to go to the bottom of the pit, like Scott says, and find the bottom, and then realize like none of that matters. What at the end, I know as a man, we're called on earth to have impact. It is psychologically, and once again, it is undeniable that men bring change. And we're talking in a society where men are being nullified, I guess, by Hollywood, by mainstream media, by the woke world. But ultimately, men are pivotal for bringing empowerment to others. Like, a mom brings nurturing, a dad brings empowerment. So we as men, if we don't show up and empower, there will be no confident youth of tomorrow. But a broken man raises a broken child. A strong man, a confident man raises a strong child. But I think what men have to do is they have to stop playing tough. They have to stop pretending it doesn't exist. They have to stop trying to find a way to escape. And they have to do the very thing that they don't want to do, which is realize, like, I'm hurting and I need to go and fix this and I need to heal from it. And I need to go on a journey to understand rather than on a journey to try to hide this and make it go away. And like Scott, obviously he went deep and he went and really sought out the meaning of life. But the meaning of life is not 6 or 7 figure income. The meaning of life is not more acquisitions or more assets. The meaning of life is not the gym. But I think most men, because they're emotionally immature, they just want a quick fix. They just want this to go away. They want by morning that it's all over. And it's like, what you have to do is you have to go on a journey of understanding where you face your fears and you let go of the need for control and you let go of trying to manipulate the outcome. And you have to start to realize, like, I'm on a lifelong journey to become better, to become stronger, but I'm going to get stronger where I'm weakest. And right now where I'm weakest scares the hell out of me. And I think most men cannot say that openly because they're trying to have bravado, or they're trying to look like they got it all together, or they're going down Scottsdale with a Lambo pretending they're something special. And it's like I can see that guy from a mile away and be like, bro, like, you're going the wrong way and it's not going to end well.
Yeah. No, I agree with so much of what he said. I think also too is like when people are like, they're at this crossroad between, I think in their hearts, they're like, I need to change. I want to fix it, but they're just lost. They don't even know where to take the first step.
Yeah, I would say so many people know that, of course, I know what I'm doing is wrong. I know I'm drinking too much. I know I engage in pornography or I eat too much or I don't work out. I think so many people know that that's an issue.
Well, and I think what ends up happening too is it becomes the measurement, right, that they're trying to achieve. There is certain times where you want to work backwards, figure out what your goal is, and then try to basically, align and make sure nothing crushes it. But I think in terms of self-help, you can't start at the finish line. You just got to start at the step. And so if you were to drop your expectations at the beginning, and like it's like when we go to the gym, people come up and ask me like, hey, I want to get in shape. And the first thing I want to ask is, how much energy and effort do you want to put in this? Like, is it 2% or 90%? And then the second question is like, well, what do you want to achieve? Or are you trying to look good naked, or do you want to move a house? Because those are two different workout programs, and one's in the kitchen and one's here and, with the heavy iron. But you got to figure that out. And once we have that established, it's a marathon and not a sprint. Like, can I just get you to commit to be here like twice a week? Right. And I think, Pete, you've said in the past too, it's, I think correlating to business, it's like, it's the New Year's resolution. Everybody's all stoked to say like, hey, I'm going to get this done. And then in 3 weeks, they're just, where'd they go? It's like crickets, right? All these processes and plans.
The average day that most resolutions fail, 16 days.
So the first thing you got to do is just get started, right? Attack the fear and be like, okay, I'm not trying to get to the finish line on day one. I just got to learn how to take that first single step. And for me, it's always been going back to the surrender part. Like, I am not, like, God is my GPS and I manage the brake and the pedal. Proverbs 3:5-6. It's pretty simple for me, right? As long as he's navigating, then I manage the pace. But I think a lot of people, they just don't even, I wouldn't say they don't know where the gas and the brake are. They just not sure what the highway can hold, and if they press it too much, are they going to hit the curb? But it really starts with just getting started. And I think also that resonates with me, and I don't know if either one of you have read the book, but there's a book called The Dash. And we've talked about the story between when you go into a cemetery, they don't look at the name and they don't look at the dates. The dash is the legacy that you leave. And I would say for here on earth, what I try to resonate with is don't predestine your dash and say, well, if I don't live up to this, then it's failed and you should take it off my tombstone. Like, your dash is evolving every single day. Second, third, fourth chances, right? And Pete, you talked about as growing up, it's like, you can tell me I'm the run. You can tell me I'm not good enough, but I'm going to look at it 17 different ways to figure out how to overcome. And that's the difference with somebody that wants to succeed and somebody that just wants to not live and just survive.
Both of you said something interesting, and it seemed like it was almost the same thing in different ways. Scott, you said that you need to find the bottom. Pete, you said that you need to, not approach, but like you need to face the darkness, or something to that effect. Is that something that is more active, and that how do you find the bottom, or does that bottom or darkness find you? Like, how does that, because that to me almost sounds like an epiphany moment where it's like, I've hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. But if your goal is to get there so that you can start building up, I mean, God, how scary it would be to want to do that to yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. It is scary, and I think there's another psychological, understanding, which I think is why men are emotionally weak, is when something happens to you, and many guys have gone through things when they're 3, 4, 5, 6 in those formative years, and you actually, and women are the same, but if you have something that occurs in your life, and a lot of times it's like dad left, parents got divorced, maybe dad was an alcoholic, or dad came back from serving overseas, or it can be a whole host, or it can maybe make family hit hard times financially, parents went bankrupt, like family fell apart, like something like that happened. And actually what happens is psychologically you stop. and your development actually stops and locks in, and it becomes the sunglasses you look through for the rest of your life. So your emotional cognitive ability stops processing, it stops evolving, and you become, and that's why so many guys are 4, 6, 8 years old emotionally, and they perceive the world through the lens of a 4, 6, or 8.
Not to make light of it, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I think a lot of guys don't realize, like, you may be 6-year-old dude, and I've coached many 6-year-old men, and they process like a 4-year-old. They process like the little boy that got steamrolled by dad when he came home from the Marines, and he was mad and he was jacked up and he had TBI and he was PTSD, and the son was like, why did I screw up enough that made dad so angry? Right? That's where you became stuck. And then the rest of your life you spend asking those questions, like, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? And then you try to find a way to justify it all. So now you said that, like, how do you find how do you find the bottom? Well, I think a lot of guys in their life, like domino 721 is falling over as they speak. And then they're asking the world, they're asking themselves, they're asking their wife, they're asking the counselor or their pastor, and they're like, why is 721 falling over? And everyone tries to answer why is 721 falling over. And I'm like, bullshit. Like, go ask, why did number 1 fall over? Like, I was that 25-year-old guy asking that question, and I stopped one day and I'm like, who flipped the first domino? And it was kind of an epiphany for me where I was like, wait a minute. I wasn't, like, there was a day where I was an innocent kid. There was a day where I had done nothing wrong. But the world told me now at 25 that I'm fucked, right? It's like something is, and it was an epiphany for me where I was like, wait a minute, my mom just told me last week I was a piece of shit. And I was like, where did this start? And I went back to figuring it out. And I was like, domino 1, when that flipped over, who did that? Why did it happen? So I think that the process of understanding is like, it's like an onion. You got to like peel it off. Because a lot of guys are like, I'll switch jobs. That'll solve it all. Or it's like, I married the war, make a change, right? Or it's like, go to the gym. Or maybe I married the wrong woman. Or maybe this. It's like we try to solve it just by changing t-shirts. And it's like, bro, that ain't it. So then it's like, it's root cause analysis 101. It's like, you need to go and figure out where the damage occurred, or you have to go and find out where the bottom of your belief system is and what it's based on.
How do you avoid falling into the trap of victim mentality when trying to find the things that hurt you and kind of have led to what others would describe as, some level of victimhood? How do you avoid that own pitfall where it's like, ooh, woe is me. Like, I'm a victim of my circumstance. I can't,
Well, and that's to me, that's another $1 million question. Because I think so many people, that's where they stop. They're a victim. Dad never said I was good enough, and I'll never be good enough. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to do things, and it proves that I'm still not good enough. And this never ends well. But I think Scott hit it on the head, is like, you have to get to a point. I had to get to a point where I realized, like, I was buckled into a car seat and my parents were driving, and I had no choice but to go through those things. So was I a victim? 100% I was. But what happens with most guys is you become a victim. And if you stay a victim, now you become the perpetrator, because now you're hurting the people that didn't deserve it. You're bleeding on the ones that didn't get cut. So there's a saying that says, heal from what cut you so you don't bleed on those that didn't hurt you or that don't deserve it, right? Or what's not transformed is transferred. So we as men, if we don't heal, if we don't understand where the wound took place and heal from the wound, we will repeat it. But now we become the perpetrators. And if you look in prison, 80% of men have father trauma or father wounds, and now they became the menaces to society. So 100%, you have to go back and say, yes, that hurt me. And I think a lot of men don't even want to go back there. They don't want to talk about it. Well, it's like, now you kind of stuck yourself in a corner and you can't get out of it. But you have to go back and say, A, yes, I was a victim. B, how do I grow through it? How do I learn from it? And how do I make this my testament? And how do I use this legacy to change other people's lives? And that's what Scott did. And it's what every man has to do, because otherwise, if you're a victim, I guarantee you're going to repeat history. You're going to create more. I have so many friends, they're they're destroying their kids at an unprecedented level. And I'm like, if you would just stop being a bitch, and if you would stop being a victim, and if you would stop running, you could actually stop the train wreck. But they just refuse. They're just dead scared, and they will never stop running. And they will run. They're running ruckshot over their wife, their kids, their stepkids. And it's just like the insanity just never stops. And then they're like, then they try to find some way to escape again. And you're like, bro, like, get over it. Like this does not end well.
Scott, are you willing to share any things that you're still afraid of, or things that you catch yourself as a husband, a father, as a man? I have countless examples of this where it's like, if I act a certain way, I'm like, oh shit, I know that that's coming from somewhere else, and that's not who I want to be. And you kind of try and self-correct right away, or maybe you don't and you feel bad about it later. But what are the things that still scare you and, are still struggles for you that you have to continually recognize and address or combat?
Two biggest things that I pray on every single day is my ability to go deeper with empathy, of understanding what my kids and the people I come in contact with are going through. And the second thing is my patience. As a father, the biggest challenge for me is wanting to instill that strength and that determination and that hope in my kids, and saying you can overcome and make them strong individuals. But at the same time, knowing that they run at a different pace than I do. And as a leader, sometimes you want to charge the battlefield and you're saying, hey, we can get over this wall or through this wall or around this wall, but we run at this pace that's so much faster than our infantry. And then we turn around and we realize that we're 2 to 3 clicks ahead of them, and we're not helping them. So being able to slow down and not saying, hey, I think there's a purpose behind this, but not being vulnerable enough to hang with them rather than force them into something. Those are the things that I struggle with. And so every day, that's where I try to ask God, and it's like, get me to slow down a little bit. They're not running at the same pace. They don't have the same life experiences. They're not built the same way I am. And that's really the interconnection of trying to figure out, how do you motivate people? How do you motivate a team? And not being like, hey, you all need to be like me. It's like, foster the strengths of the individual and promote those things while helping them to grow, because in that same respect, they're helping you grow. And that's where it goes back to that servant leadership, right? You ask people that, and Pete, I know you've been overseas helping and stuff. It's like, you probably can relate that you got more out of going than probably the people that you helped when you were there. And so when I go back and reflect on my story that I shared earlier in the podcast about losing the child, right? For me as a husband, my initial mind said, hey, I need to be strong. I need to be the one to pull us through this. But the longest distance was between my head and my heart. And so I had to get vulnerable with myself and say, you know what? I'm never going to be able to feel the same way my wife felt, because I didn't have that connection with, the child didn't grow inside of me, right? I'm thinking about walking her down the aisle when she's, in her 20s. My wife's got a different experience. So what I had to do is get vulnerable with myself, and I wanted to tap into those emotions to, everybody's bottom's different, but I forced myself to cry, to weep, to find the songs that got to those emotional parts of me, so that I could find I could find the empathy to feel what she was feeling, so I could be there to support her, not to get her over the wall, because we were just broken in that moment. And I think those are the things that I still reflect on today, where it's like, my nature is to overcome the problem, to show people that there is light. But at the same time, I'm still struggling to figure out how to pace that accordingly with the people that I'm trying to, bring with me. So those are the things that really resonate with me, that I struggle with, is just the empathy and the patience.
I'm tempted to ask Pete the same one, but I don't know him well enough to see if I can impose so much.
I think for me, it goes back to another, like I was saying, that one podcast I was on a few weeks back. I think the number one thing I struggle with is the same thing I think most guys struggle with, which is we want to we want this to be over and done with. We want the hard times to be over with so that we can sail onto smoother waters. But I think for me, I came to a realization that this battle is never over. Like every day is just a new day to push aside broken beliefs. And it's a new day to continue to get those reps in and continue to strengthen the muscles and negate those negative neural pathways and formalize positive neural pathways. But knowing that every day I'm just 1% stronger than I was yesterday, but I'm not out of the fight, and I'm never going to be out of the fight because that's never going away. So I think every day I have to fight like Scott was saying, I have to fight my desire to become emotionless. I have to fight my desire to get angry and to get hard and to get bitter and to get like forceful. Because Scott said it, but it's like my analogy is like I've had times in my life, like my wife and kids are bouncing and I'm dragging them across the gravel with a chain because I'm so hell bent on like muscling through life. And I think for me, every day there's a part of me, there's a 4-year-old that grows up and that wakes up every day and just wants to escape. He just wants to like, he wants to answer those questions that are unanswerable. And every day I think there's a battle inside you that is trying to, like that rubber band, every day it's like you snap back into, I'm not good enough, I'm not successful enough, I'm not this enough, I'm not that enough. And you have to be like, that's bullshit. And then you have to force yourself to believe a different thing and then get better and stronger. But I think it's that fight. I really think it's that fight between victimhood trying to like encroach, and every day you're ripping away and you're like, no, I won't believe that. I'm going to believe what God says. I'm going to do the right things. But I think most men, if they're honest, would say that the insecurities and the victimhood is at your door knocking every day.
I really resonate with what you said, that like every day is a challenge, or it's that the challenge doesn't stop. The fight doesn't stop. That I don't know where I heard it, but I heard it recently and it kind of resonated as well, was like the rule of thirds, where it's like a third of your days might be good, a third of your days might be meh, and then a third of your days might be bad. And if you manage to hit that you're actually potentially in a good spot of a balance between being uncomfortable and places where you have opportunities to grow, but then with enough of the positive side to help balance it out. But the idea is that it doesn't go away. The fight doesn't go away. So I definitely feel that in a big way.
Yep. And Pete, I wanted to ask, so the book was published when?
I think it was 2 years ago now.
Okay. Is there an audio version of it by chance?
There is not. I haven't stopped long enough to record one, but
I'm a huge audiobook fan. Like that, Scott, I don't know if you know this about me. That's my superpower is listening to audio. I'm one of those freaks who can do like 3 times speed and hear everything, because I've been listening to audiobooks forever. But I asked about Audible or audiobooks because of that reason, but no, I can pick up an old school book every now and then too.
Yeah, Pete, one of the things that I have to tell people, right, is, JP is our analytical mind of the company, runs the operations of our logistics and stuff like that. And because he's so analytical, we call him Chat JPT. So if you want something done, you just give it to Chat JPT. He will just give you the answer. Too much emotion behind it? Audio speed. So when you were writing that book, I think you had mentioned maybe in a post or something like that, it's like you just kept running into people, and it's like almost like the book was like, you didn't sit down and say, hey, I want to write a book. It was it one of those things that were chomping on you? You're like, I think the book's trying to tell me I need to do something? Or how does that go when you get from that author stage?
I think for me, it was my journey. Because I think there's a lot of times where I'm like, if I don't figure this out, like I'm going to go over a cliff. And then I was like, I'm going to find another resource. But I found like a lot of the resources and I tried it all, like hypnotherapy, prayer counseling, couples counseling, individual counseling, retreats. But it was like, have you tried any
ibogaine or anything like that yet? Any
3-MeO-D, ibogaine?
Yeah,
that's a whole other.
No, I don't think I tried that.
No, that's the spiritual side with psychedelics that they're dealing with for a lot of the teams guys coming back with PTSD.
Yeah, no, and I haven't done that. But I guess I felt like every one of those like scratches the itch, but then a few months later, the itch comes back. And I know the psychedelics would be the same, right? It's like you're trying to find a way of just, reducing the symptoms. But I guess for me, there was times where I was like, if I don't control this, at some point, I'm going to run off this cliff and I'm going to crash and burn and I'm just going to destroy everything. So there's a desperation, I think, for years where I was like, I don't know how to solve this. Nobody's helping me solve it. It almost felt like a desperate, like no one's coming to help me. Like if I don't figure this out. And so, but it was kind of a journey where I read Father by God by John Eldridge. But the more I started searching, the more I started to realize like what was causing my struggle started when I was little. And when I was trying to solve it, looking at, my life, my marriage, my kids today, it was like I could never answer the question. I could never understand why I felt so much discomfort. But when I started to go back and understand like how I evolved as a child, how I grew, how I developed, and then I started to make sense of today because I could understand how did I get here. And then if I understand how I got here, I could also understand how to like rebuild my belief system. So all of that made me create a book because I was realizing like 90% of guys are just like me. 90% of guys they're trying to find some way of solving their problem, but they're not finding the true answer. And I get that all the time. I talk to guys and I'm like, what you're thinking is the problem is not the problem. And they're like, well, what is the problem? And then I'll be like, let's unpack it. But so I put the book together because I was like, I feel like most guys, they're looking for a solution and the world is telling them it's, Robert Kiyosaki, or it's some Stoic book, or it's, even biblical. Like a lot of men struggle with Bible because it's like they don't believe dad was very good. So why would they believe that a God in heaven would be all that good? So it's like so many guys, it's like they're just looking for an answer and there's no answers. And in the meantime, their wife's more upset. Meanwhile, the world's getting more difficult to manage and navigate, and you get desperate. And I think for me, the answer was like, I feel like I got the aha, and I'm like, let me help every other brother I can find their aha.
That's cool because a lot of times when people find gold, they keep it to themselves.
No, this is perfect too. And Pete, if you're willing, I want to do part 2 of the podcast because there's so much that we unpack today about, life that translate into things that you've successfully done in your career with business, where people that, let's call a spade right now, they maybe want to get to that awakening where they find peace and joy. But right now they're firefighting, going, I've got to keep this business together. I've got to basically overcome this hurdle, which then translates on what you do, on an everyday basis. But JP, I would love if Pete, you're willing to come back, we take some of the content we talked about today and then translate that into some of the applications that you've done and the successful. I know you just got off of turning a company around recently, talking about some of the things, how you use the core principles of what we talked today and how those were shifted into the boardroom and taking a company and saying, hey, let's look at the problem differently. Let's attack it this way. Let's shelf the pride and the ego and everything we're scared about and maybe look at this business from the people aspect, from the process access, because we know we have the passion. We just got to mesh it together so it's workable.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, hell, let me be a guinea pig, man. So much of what's being talked about right now is, really hitting home for me.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself certainly not religious, somewhat spiritual. Definitely have my struggles with that side of things. It's kind of funny because I literally have the Bible on my phone on Audible that I listen to, but kind of admitting it now, if you're a friend of mine, you already know this about me, but like belief and faith is a huge issue with me. Like it's almost like I'm trying to, it feels like it should be right, but something's not clicking.
Let me ask you, would you say that somewhere along the line somebody weaponized that against you?
I think we'd have to dig in or see if there's something hidden in the recesses of my mind, because there really isn't nothing that sticks out like a sore thumb, other than like a little bit of like usual rebellious teenager stuff where I kind of lost myself for a couple years, but then came back and was happy. So I don't know, but But yeah, a lot of what you guys are saying and your journeys resonate with where I feel like I'm at in my personal life. And so I'm very excited for a part 2 for kind of continued development opportunities. The people are going to ask, step 1, 2, 3. I assume it's never too late to start getting on a better path, but at the same time, they need something tangible. We can't just say, hey, you have this massive problem and it's going to be absolutely Herculean to fix it. Where are the steps? What's the 1, 2, 3 that you've all found success with?
Well, if I'm biased, I would say read my book, and then that'll give you steps 1 through 10.
I have
right?
it. I literally just purchased it, so it'll be at my doorstep on Saturday.
So that's, to me, that's the roadmap, because it's literally built as a roadmap. But I would say step 1 is quit trying to be tough. Like, just
God, that's
get
hard.
Real. Yeah,
It's hard.
very hard.
Yeah, that one I hear, because I don't know what it is about me, but one of my things is like just, I can't say it any other way, but like crying, like is something that's extremely difficult and is literally painful. Like in I can count on one hand the times of my adult life that has happened, and it's like physically painful, and it's like appalling to me to feel that emotion. So great first step, tough first step.
It is. And I would love to unpack it with you, because I can feel what it is for you, that I can see myself in you. So I think, like, we all have this desperate need to be tough, to keep it together, because we don't want the waterfall effect, or we don't want what's trapped behind that door to come out. But yeah, I think playing tough is 1. 2 is, you don't have to be Superman anymore. You were never designed to be Superman. No one told you had to be Superman, but your need to be tough made you want, and you had to prove to the world that you're flawless, and you've got it all together, and you've got all the answers. I think those 2 are steps 1 and 2. And step 3 is, ultimately, I think, as a man, because we're talking about men and we're talking as amongst men, but I think as a man, we have to be warriors. Like, we're going to fight for our tribe. We're going to defend the kingdom. We're going to stand up and defend the, we're supposed to die for our kingdom, because if we don't die for the kingdom, then there is no kingdom, and then we're invaded, and there's nothing to salvage. So we're called to be warriors, but we're also called to be poets, in the respect that we were designed to have a heart. We were designed to love our kids. Our kids' survival requires us to love them. Our kids need to know that dad's sensitive and caring and listening and nurturing. And if we turn off and we play tough and we have those emotional switches turned off, we wreck our kids, we wreck our wives. Marriages fall apart because women are sick of being married to a zombie. They're married to a robot. They're married to, a stoic. And so I think 1 is quit playing tough. 2 is you don't have to be Superman. And 3 is you were designed to be full of, like, you have all these senses, right? Touch, taste, feel. Like, you were meant to feel. You were meant to have a heart. You were meant to show love. Love is the most powerful force on the earth. So as a man, you need to learn how to love yourself, love others, and then go and fight for others, including fighting for yourself. So I think those are kind of the 3 big steps to success.
Yeah. And the way I would frame it is, number 1, lay down your sword and your shield. Like you said, lead with vulnerability.
Sword's easy. The shield's the hard part.
Yeah. But you have to, you have to take it all down, right? Because you can't see around, through it. You got to basically drop it. And then the second thing I would do is stop focusing on the finish line, because you're never going to get there. The expectation, you need to shelf that, because you're always trying to search and grab the carrot, but it's always going to be just without reach, but it's okay. And then the last thing I would think is, think about how to get just 1% better, right? Writing down the things that possibly, and again, everybody's journey is going to be different, right? Take somebody that you do admire, write down the qualities that you see in them, and then reflect in terms of what you think that you're missing, and say, what steps can I take in my daily life to get 1% better? And those steps start become habit forming. And then once they become habit forming, it's second nature. That's how I would break it down. Lower the shield. Don't set the finish line, and figure out how to get 1% better.
Cool. Well, do we start wrapping it up here, or?
Yeah, let's be conscious of Pete's time too. I know we've been pushing an hour on this.
Well, awesome. This is really cool. Definitely a change of pace from some of the folks we've spoken with in the past in a good way. So I appreciate it. Definitely looking forward to part 2. So we'll work on getting that scheduled and in the books.
Sweet. Well, I look forward to it, guys. Appreciate your time.
Well, everyone, that is a wrap for today's episode of Beyond the Build. We took away some real valuable lessons and insights, and I hope that you did as well.
If you enjoyed this episode, we would ask that you subscribe so you can never miss an update. If you're a thought leader looking to innovate in the construction industry, let's talk. We'd love to connect and hear your thoughts.
You can find Beyond the Build on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, plus anywhere else that you listen. And if you'd like to learn more about how Faro is changing logistics in the construction industry, please visit our website at faronow.com.
Once again, thanks for tuning in. And until next time, be humble, serve others, and make an impact.